And welcome back, everyone, to episode 60 of the Sports Coverage Podcast. My name is Andrew, alongside my co host for today, Dylan. It's going to be a fun episode for today because it is in honor of episode 60, a pretty big milestone. We're going to do my home state for the next city series episode, New Jersey. And I found the biggest New Jersey sports fan I could find, specifically Rutgers. So welcome, Dylan, and welcome back, actually, because you were on here a long time ago, and Vince flamed you a lot for liking
Uh,
Rutgers, but that's not going to happen this time.
Thanks for having me today. New Jersey is like the best kind of sport for college football, at least, and Rutgers is the best team. So glad
Okay,
you can have me on for today.
glad to see we're off to a strong start, I would say. But why don't we start with Rutgers? Why don't we start with a team or multiple teams from Rutgers that are in a pretty big season right now? And you were talking to me before we started filming specifically about Rutgers football. They were last ranked in 2012, and now they have a chance to be ranked this week after narrowly beating Washington at home. So, just kind of, what are your thoughts so far on this young 2024 season for Rutgers, and what are your expectations going forward?
I mean, this team is special. This is definitely our best team since joining the Big Ten. We have the most, as Kirk Herbstreit said at game day yesterday morning. Kyle Monangai is the most underrated running back in the league. No one talks about him, but he's averaging 150 yards a game with about 1.5 touchdowns per game, and he's not playing bad competition. We had a Power Four road victory against Virginia Tech in Blacksburg. Enter Sandman, not a hostile environment. We beat them on the road, and then we come back to SHI Stadium in Piscataway, and on a Friday night blackout, the second most fans ever appeared in a Rutgers game, blackout, fully sold out, and we, even though it was narrow, it was very scary at the end. They almost had a game tying field goal to send to overtime, but we got out of there a win, and we're 4-0, and now we're going into week 5 for us, playing at Nebraska with like a good chance to go into a UCLA game on October 25th at UCLA on prime time, 7-0 if we can continue this streak. But this is one of the best seasons that is happening to Rutgers. First time being 4-0 since something like 2012. So and that was the season we were last ranked. So this is a special team.
Yeah. And you said, what, 25% chance to be ranked after just this week?
That's what I'm assuming. Indiana, they beat Maryland, so they're 5-0. They're going to be ranked. But it depends how they think about Washington. How what do they think? How their skill level. But if it's not this week, if we get a win at Nebraska next week, we're definitely ranked. And this is just a start of a special year.
Yeah, and you mentioned very good running back depth, but I also want to highlight the Rutgers O line, who has been just absolutely insane over the first couple games and has really made sure that that running game is good and that the quarterback is protected. So, just kind of how much do you think that means to this team right now?
Yeah, as much as you can highlight Kyle Monangai, the running back, the O line is the only person creating the holes for him to run through. This is a veteran O line, very experienced. Our left tackle, the heart and soul of our O line, is came in as a walk on as a freshman, 450 pounds. But our coach, who's a developmental coach, he doesn't recruit 5 stars, but he makes these 3 stars into stars. Knew this guy was special. He trained him. He lost like 150 pounds of weight, and he's a strong man. Now he's protecting our quarterback. Our quarterback was only sacked, Ethan Kaliakmanis, only sacked once against Washington. Washington's a good defense, only sacked once though, because our O-line's able to protect him. He's able to get throws out on time, and that showed in the win. So that's a big
Yeah.
factor in our success so far.
Yeah, definitely. And if we just want to hop back to last season real quick, it was definitely you could tell that we were getting near the end of a rebuild. They played a decently big bowl game at the end of the year against a team now that is going to be one of the top 10 teams in the country in Miami. And they performed well. And I think last season it was a pretty average season, but it's better than they've had since, like we said, that 2012 season, the last time they were ranked. So just kind of were your expectations from like last season going into this season that they were going to be ranked by week 4?
Last year, obviously, with the expansion not yet taking place, with still the Big East or the East and the West of like for the Big Ten, we were always playing Penn State, Michigan State, and Ohio State, or Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State every single year, and that was since 2014. and those teams are powerhouses. We don't really have a chance against any of those teams ever. So, and also we played Iowa last year. So we, even though we started the season 6-2, we lost the next 4 games of our season. But we can tell that the tables were turning because every game was close. We were never getting blown out. We were always in these games, and we beat Miami in the Pinstripe Bowl in Yankee Stadium, and that's a big win for us. A former Big East rival when we were in the Big East, and that's big. And you could tell that and then this year we don't play any of those 3 teams I mentioned, or Oregon or Iowa. So this is like our year because we are able to play the teams that are good, but they're not like the stars of the Big Ten. And it's going to really show the world like who Rutgers is when we're not playing these powerhouses, which is just we've had unluckily have to play every year.
Yeah, you did mention that. So I guess the issue now is it's the expanded Big Ten. There's new teams, new opponents that you haven't gotten to play. UCLA, you have to travel across the U.S. to go play them, so that's obviously going to be a factor going all the way out there, playing at a different time, practicing at different times. Um, but like you mentioned, you're not playing those top three schools. So if you do well in the Big Ten this year, maybe dropping one game or no games even, and you end up going to a Big Ten championship game, do you think you even have a chance against potentially playing one of those powerhouse schools?
I definitely do. Our defense is able to shut down any team. Ohio State last year we played them when they were number one team in the country, 6-2 when we were 6-2. The entire first half, we were winning 9-7 because our defense was shutting down Kyle McCord. Yes, I know Kyle McCord was not the greatest quarterback last year, but it was still Ohio State. They still had Marvin Harrison. And until the second half started, where it was a controversial pick six for them, and yeah, the momentum shifted, but we were in that game. Michigan last year, we started off 7-0. We were winning the game in the first half. They were only up by like 10. And then it was a pick six when we were driving their territory that also just flipped the momentum. So like it was just one play, and our quarterback was not good last year. He was just he couldn't make the simple passes. We relied too much on the run game. And now this year we have an accurate passer plus a run game plus an O line plus a great receiver who was the FCS leading receiver in yards last year from Monmouth University. He transferred into Rutgers, and now he's just like an insanely good player. So we have pieces that we did not have last year. That if we made it, which no, as a Rutgers fan, I know we're not making to the Big Ten championship, but even if we make it to a good bowl game or even play USC on the road at 11 o'clock p.m., like we're gonna be able to contend with these teams because we are a whole lot better than last year.
Yeah. And if you look at just kind of how the Big Ten is looking right now, of course, Indiana, they need to be ranked now 5-0. They're already 2-0 in conference play, so they're going to be someone big this year. Michigan struggling a bit. Um, of course, they did lose to Texas, who's going to be probably the number one team um, ranked this week. OSU 4-0, usual Oregon new team there 4-0, Penn State 4-0, but of course they always struggle, and then Rutgers 4-0. So, um, four out of those or 6 teams I just mentioned are ranked, and another one is going to be ranked pretty much guaranteed this week. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. Rutgers is creeping up there, and I guess we'll see what happens. But just real quick, final thing about Rutgers football. Big Ten, like we mentioned, changed. UCLA, USC, Oregon. Just what did you think about the Big Ten shakeup in general?
I'm completely a fan of it. First, it got rid of conferences in the Big Ten, so now we don't have to play the insanely good teams every year. And also, it's just we used to play Washington. We played them 2 years in a row. We never beat them. This is the first time ever beating Washington. We just get to play new teams. This is like it's a really cool experience for a fan to be able to maybe have the opportunity to go watch a game against UCLA at home. Like you would never expect that as a Rutgers fan, and like even if it was last year, 2 years ago. But now with conference realignment, you're able to go like branch out and watch these new teams, and also it gives like your my team Rutgers a good chance of actually doing something in a year with conference realignment. So some people might not like it. It's like ruining like the Pac-12. It's no longer a conference. The Mountain West is breaking up, or it's breaking. All these conferences like Group of Five are breaking apart. But for personally, for a Big Ten fan, I'm a completely a fan of it.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be cool to see them play those teams from out of town. But I think you might even be more hyped up against or about the next team, Rutgers basketball, which, of course, you can speak on the players that they've just gotten better than I can. So just kind of going into the season, let's just give a rundown of what we're seeing.
So yesterday was the first live scrimmage open to the fans. That it was two 12-minute halves, something like that, with all the players, all the healthy players played. So obviously I'll highlight Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey. They the most hyped up prospects in any Rucker sport history coming in this year. Dylan Harper showed that he is the leader of the team. He scored 17 points on good efficiency, but he would take over a game. Like he could just take anyone on, get to the hoop, score at ease. His 3-point shot is like very solid, and you can just he will be the main point guard. Like Ace Bailey, he's a great player. His sidestep three is like money. He's a high flyer. He's a great dribbler for a 6'10" guard. He's kind of like a guard forward, kind of like a Kevin Durant build. He's able to get to the rim. He's a great defender. He's insanely good vertical, blocks a lot of shots. But surprisingly, it's something he's improved on this entire offseason is his passing. His passing was on point yesterday. He was like seeing his open. He wasn't taking bad shots at the hoop. He was seeing his open man in the corners, the wing. So that's something that I'm really excited to see because we've never had one of those players who can get to the rim with his height and his length, but also be able to pass it out if he's not open in the hoop. And then a couple more players, Jermichael Davis, our sophomore guard. He had a breakout season as a freshman last year. He's going to improve this year. Jeremiah Williams, our senior guard, he's going to improve. And then the rest of the team is just added on pieces like that we came in from the transfer portal just to build around Ace and Dylan, who are going. It's just they are the stars of the shows, and then we have these role players who are going to sit around the wings, play good defense, just the Rutgers scheme. So very excited for this season.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And I guess looking at the schedule, there's a couple of things that stick out. One, you're playing in the Players Era Festival tournament in Las Vegas, right? It's in
Yeah,
Vegas,
that's gonna
yeah.
be
And that's going to
yeah.
feature games against Notre Dame, Alabama, Houston, and those, of course, were all powerhouse teams last year. They, of course, play Seton Hall, another New Jersey team, every year in the Garden State Classic. We'll get to Princeton in a second because they're going to play them in the Prudential Center in another big New Jersey clash. And then, of course, conference play. And now with UCLA, USC joining in on that conference play, of course, two schools that also have pretty good basketball programs. It's going to be a fun season. But I guess the question now is we've seen this trend with college basketball the last couple of years. These top recruits, they get their one season of college in, and then they're out. They either transfer somewhere because they didn't like it, or they're going straight to the draft. So, is this going to be the one year where Rutgers is going to be good enough to really compete for a national championship?
So everyone is like saying national championship, national title. Yes, I think we are definitely a March Madness team, and I think we are definitely like a top 5 or 6 seed. National title is hard. You need. This is our first year and probably our last year with these freshmen. Yeah, I think they're going to go to the draft, because they're like just insanely talented. But yeah, we have only like 1 or 2 returning players from our team last year, which was not good at all. Our team last year was not good. So it's gonna take a couple. It's gonna take a couple of weeks for these players or our players to kind of work well together and then form their chemistry. So if we're only putting like national title as like if it's national title or bust season, I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're focused on making a run in March Madness and getting past like the second round. That we haven't done that since like the 1970s and the 80s. So anything past like the third round is, in my opinion, is a success because I know these are players, they're gone next year, and then it's a whole new year of transfer portal, of recruiting, and all that, and that could go well for us because the more success you have, the more recruits you get. But I'm not putting national title as the line underline for the season. I want to just make the tournament, win a few games in the tournament, and just be able to watch these freshmen just go to work.
Yeah, and you will say they may need a couple weeks to really get warmed up. I don't want to jinx anything, but your out of conference run up to that first tournament is a little Well, I mean, it speaks for itself. Wagner, St. Peter's, Monmouth, Merrimack, and Kennesaw State. So I think they should be pretty warmed up after those first 6 games or 5 games. So
And
yeah,
I do think that Steve Pike, our head coach, I think I'm not, obviously, I have no insider information, but I think he may have set a somewhat easy schedule to start the season for that one reason. For those 4 games, I'm pretty sure will take up almost 2 weeks of the season, maybe
yeah,
1.5 to 2, and then our travel to Vegas, the practice there. Those 2 weeks against low level teams, we'll get our chemistry up. We'll get our like they will be warmed up in those games, which would then lead to the difficult tournament we play, and then even Princeton, Seton Hall, the harder games, and then the conference play after that. So I think that was a smart decision by the coaching staff, making an easier schedule, so this newly formed team can practice together in
yeah.
games.
What do you think about your conference schedule, though?
I mean, in basketball, it's different than football. You'll play every single team, no matter what. So like we know what we're expecting. We know that we're going to play the new 4 teams that added the Big Ten. We know we're going to play the other 14 teams that are already here. It's really going to depend on like just how the season plays out. Like who knows? Some teams that are preseason ranked will not be as good. Some teams that like in Indiana in football, a team that's a surprise. They might be good later on in the season. So it's really going to depend how good Rutgers is and how good the teams we're playing are. But yeah, it's just the same old Big Ten plus new 4 teams. So, but it's going to be fun to watch this team play against the new
Yeah.
Pac-12 teams coming in.
Well, it's certainly been a fun year. I guess just to kind of round out Rutgers, just any thoughts on the women's basketball team? Because I know last year they had a lot of good players, um, and they had not a great season though. 2-16, conference 8-24, so that wasn't necessarily great. And looking at their schedule, playing a lot of New Jersey teams, Iona, NJIT, Princeton. Just any comments on that team?
The team last year, our coach, Hall of Fame coach, she left to retire a few years ago. We had it was late in the off season point where she retired, so we hired a new coach, and a lot of people just transferred out of our program. And it hasn't been the same. We used to be a consistent NCAA tournament team. Every year we would make it, but now we ran on like 9 players last year. We didn't even have a full rotation of players, so it's gonna take a few years to get players recruit and then get transfers in. But I think you got to give us maybe like last year, even though we were bad, we were coming close in every game. Like we were not getting blown out all the time. We won a Big Ten tournament game, I'm pretty sure. So you got if you give us like a 1 or 2 more years to rebuild, this team will kind of regain its step. But it's hard when your Hall of Fame coach that everyone wants to play for retires. So
Yeah,
it's gonna still be a rebuilding process even this year.
yeah. All right, let us head over to the next college, Princeton, and let's start with football because I think that's I'll have a lot to say and you'll have a lot to say about basketball, but let's go to football first. Of course, Ivy League, they're an FCS team, so they're not competing for bowl games or anything like that. But um, I wouldn't say that Ivy football is necessarily the worst FCS conference you can be in for football because a lot of these programs, specifically Harvard, who won the Ivy League last year, are actually pretty good teams. So they start off the season Lehigh, who of course does have a very very good FCS football program, who has shown that they can play pretty well over the years. Then they played Howard, who was also a fellow opponent of Rutgers earlier this year. So lost to Lehigh by 15. Came out and won against Howard 30-13. And then they're pretty much entering all conference play besides a quick game against 5-0 Mercer, which is going to be interesting. So just kind of Princeton football. What have you seen? What are you looking to see for the rest of the season? And yeah,
Princeton football, like Princeton Ivy League sports for football are never really highlighted much. They don't really get like they don't get national televised games or any of that. But that Mercer game will be a real test of what this team's level of play is. Mercer is one of the top FCS programs every year, and they either will if Princeton gets blown out, they'll get a real shot that they're just middle of the pack again. not really going to make like a run for the FCS championships, none of that. But if they stay in that game, even if they lose, then you show when you go to conference play and you play the Harvards, the Yales, the Browns, they have a chance to win, and the more they win, the more chance they have of making a run later in the season. Yes, there's no um playoffs and like bowl games for them, but I'm certain that I'm pretty sure that Princeton can make the FCS championship games, which is hard, but I'm pretty sure if they have a successful enough season that they can. And I don't think it will be this year. I don't know if it'll be next year, but as long as they can keep, it's like Rutgers. Like they were bad for a long time, but now every year they're making like a rebuilding step. If Princeton can do that, show that they can play Mercer competitively, that'll be a good
Yeah.
test for their season.
And so far this year, Princeton has thrown out two pretty decent quarterbacks to go out there and try to make something happen. Their senior, Blaine McAllister, of course, is the main guy out there. He played the Howard game yesterday. 5 for 19, 80 yards, one touchdown, but they did score 30 points. And then, of course, Blaine Hippo was the guy who played that Princeton Lehigh game, 16 for 38, 219 yards, two touchdowns, but the main issue being three interceptions.
Mhm.
So I think that they have a lot of options going forward. I think Blaine McAllister is going to be the guy. Of course, he's the senior this year. And I think he's going to end up being the guy who's going to go out there and get most of the reps. But there are options. There's a lot of wide receiver options, a lot of good tight end options. So I think the biggest thing then would be defense, working on that, especially still giving up those 35 points against Lehigh. Of course, like we said, three interceptions, not great. But yeah, Mercer, October 12th, 3:30. That's going to be a very fun game, and we'll see how that goes. But let's head over to Princeton basketball.
Mm.
And you know, I've been talking about it a lot since I went to a game last year. Um, I love where the team is right now. And I guess I'll let you, not being a Princeton basketball fan, go first. Talk about what you've seen. Talk about our two main guys that are going to go out there this year. And let's just hear what you have to say.
I see like a hungry team, like kind of playing for revenge. Like they had a such a disappointing end to the season last year, not being able to even reach the Ivy League final. Like they were the favorite to win the Ivy League, and I'm pretty sure they lost like it was like Brown or something. It
Yeah.
was it's a rough loss. Like they
Yeah.
just didn't play their best. It was like they had to win. They had to win the Ivy League, and I thought they were like a dark horse to win a game in the first round of the March Madness. If they made it, kind of like what Yo did to Auburn. I thought that Princeton was that type of team who could like get out of the first round, but with Xavier Lee, like he's been carrying the team all year, but didn't have their best year. This year, it's different. He's now a junior. No, I'm pretty sure a
Yeah, junior.
junior year. Like he still has technically, if he wants, 2 more years of eligibility. This is his team. He's getting like he's getting national like views. Like he's a popular player now. So I think this is the year they have to do. Like they have to make the March Madness. I think it's March Madness a bust for this team. Um, Happy that Rutgers stole off Zach Martini from you guys. He's a great player. And he'll be a stud for our team. But even with the loss of him, you guys have a lot of depth, a lot of great players. Yeah, this is Princeton's basketball years, definitely.
Yeah, so you mentioned Xavier Lee already. He was looking to go to the draft this year, decided to come back to Princeton, not even transfer, which, he's the best. And then Caden Pierce, who actually was ranked higher than Xavier in the junior rankings nationally this year. He is our big forward out there. Then you have Dalen Davis, who was in his freshman year last year. He's not necessarily a huge guy, like 6 foot 190, but he could definitely go out there. He's going to have a much bigger role this year with Matalacco, Zach Martini, both gone. We had a bunch of other freshmen come in, which have been just amazing. I'm looking for Vernon Collins, who is 6'10", to go out there and potentially get some more playing time this year. He's not necessarily an amazing shooter, which is why he didn't play or get a lot of playing time last year. So if we can get him and figure out how to get him in games, having him as a big man is going to be very helpful. Blake Peters, Jack Scott, they both went out there last year and also made some big plays. But man, I'm excited. It's going to be an amazing year. We're playing Myrtle Beach Invitational, which of course isn't the biggest tournament that you could find. Of course, Rutgers is playing in a much bigger one. But then they do play Rutgers, which is going to be a fun game since we beat them last year. And then conference play. I don't think our out of conference is necessarily crazy, but yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Um, I think this is like they are set up for success. I think the loss of Matalaco, Notre Dame, I'm pretty sure. Um,
Yeah,
something
first
like
graduate year. Yeah,
yeah, Notre Dame, and then even Zach Martin, just like kind of a role player who hangs around the wing corner. They are big losses, but Princeton has showed that like they have Xavier Lee in his junior year is completely improved, and as you said, they got some freshmen. Um, that 6'10" center, he seems like he will be take a big jump from last year, and I'm excited to watch the Rutgers Princeton game because I believe that Princeton will be coming into that game with maybe one or two losses because their non-conference schedule is not bad. It's pretty easy if I were to say, and I think that's a good thing for them. They can't afford to like lose their kind of their motivation and their momentum going into the Rutgers game, going into the conference play. They need to come in with a full head of steam, and I think that with the Myrtle Beach tournament going to South Carolina with the easy non-conference schedule, they are set up for success. They're set up to win games. They're set up to run through the Ivy League, and I do hope that Rutgers will win. But as much as people think that Rutgers is going to be an insanely good team this year, that's not going to be any easy game. It's going to be a fun, entertaining game at Prudential Center. It's going to be split crowd probably, so that's going to be this is a good game for Princeton Rutgers.
it's crazy that you just said split crowd for a Princeton versus Rutgers
It,
game.
it won't be
I mean,
split crowd. It will definitely be 75-25. But
yeah,
I think they're going to be there are going to be Princeton fans who are going to show up. As much as Rutgers fans travel insanely well, we are one of the best traveling teams. We'll show up to every fan base's stadium. But like it's it's Princeton versus Rutgers, and I think Princeton fans want to come to this game.
yeah.
It's a, so it will not be like 90-10 Rutgers fans. It's going to be 75-25, 60-40. It's going to be more Princeton fans than you expect.
I want to go to that game.
Yeah, I
Definitely
wish I
do.
could. I'm busy that day.
Um, let's see. So there you go. That's the big college sports. Of course, Seton Hall, always a pretty good basketball program. St. Peter's, we know their story and all that kind of stuff. NJIT Monmouth. Um, let's head over to New Jersey professional sports, and of course, we'll say this. This is, I guess, our disclaimer. Um, the Nets left us, so we're not going to talk anything about them. Even though the Jets and the Giants play here, we're just going to leave that for the New York episode, which is going to be a very long episode. Um,
Yeah.
and Dylan might be back for that one. We're not sure yet. We'll think about it. Um, and then what else? Yeah, so I guess all we really got here is hockey. So let's do that. New Jersey Devils. That is our team. That is the Jersey team. Um, and listen, 2 years ago, they made it to the Stanley Cup playoffs. They made a deep run. Of course, they lost in brutal fashion to Carolina, which I'm still very sad about to this day because that was really our season. But we have a bunch of young talent. We have Jack Hughes, who, first of all, amazing cover for NHL 25 this year. And he also has shown that he is going to be the face of the league in a couple of years. He loves it here in Jersey. He's battled with injuries, which is really his only downside right now. But he's an amazing center. He scores goals, and that's what we need done. Captain Nico Hischier, same thing. A little bit older than Jack Hughes. Same thing, injuries. He was out. He missed a lot of time last year. But yeah, Curtis Lazard, Dawson Mercer, who it took to up until last week, we finally signed a new deal with him, a pretty big deal, a deal that I think he enjoys, and a deal that I think a lot of New Jersey fans will enjoy. Dawson Mercer, he was a big part of that team last year. Jesper Bratt, left winger, our best one by far. Let's see, his bobblehead is back here somewhere. Oh, here it is. Yeah, here he is. We love him here in Jersey. He's pretty much our second leading goal scorer behind Jack Hughes. Let's see who else. Eric Holla, who has been another very good young talent. Andres Palat, who we brought in 2 years ago. He had a pretty slow start last season, but he kind of got back into it, and he's been a good role player with the team. Tomas Tatar, I've really enjoyed watching. He's a very physical player, which we definitely needed more of. Bastian has been pretty much our leading right wing besides Timo Meyer, who we brought in 2 years ago in a pretty big trade that we finally dumped off Mackenzie Blackwood, although we've had some goalie issues since then. But love him. Uh, Defensive side, Dougie Hamilton and Luke Hughes. Luke Hughes being a very young guy, brother of Jack Hughes. It's cool that they get to play together. And then, of course, Dougie Hamilton, one of the most physical players in the league. Again, struggled with injuries the last couple of years, but love Dougie. He has an amazing slap shot, and he's definitely healthy again this year. He's going to be crazy. Simone Nemec, who is young, and then we brought in Brett Pesce, who amazing as well. And then goalies, old guy Jake Allen. He's just had a lot of experience. Nico Dawes, who I guess is our young guy, and Jacob Markstrom, who is also going to get some reps out there. I love this team. I love everything about this team. Dylan, I know you don't follow it as much, but if you have anything to say about it, what would it be?
So yeah, you hyped up this team. I'm not a big hockey fan. Don't really just follow the Stanley Cup Finals, but I don't know. I'm looking at the preseason. Looks like they have off to a
Okay.
pretty rough start. 0-4 on the preseason. Yeah, it's preseason. Doesn't have any doesn't matter for the regular season, but think that I think the Devils. I remember they like lost to the Rangers one year in the final in the Stanley Cup or something.
That was a
I thought it
while
was.
ago because we beat them 2 years ago.
Oh, you won that one. Okay,
Yeah,
so
we did win that one.
they're not like a non-successful team. They it seems like they do like are like a consistent Stanley Cup participant, maybe even like somewhere like close to making it. Not a big fan, but it seems like you highlighted some of the younger players. It's always good in a professional sports team to have young talent because you know that if you have a bad year, they're still young. They'll just keep improving. So, and I think that's cool that the two brothers get to play. That chemistry will be on point, and I'm hoping for the best. I'm kind of mixed. I just I root for whoever's good, Devils or Rangers. So, hey, let's hope that the Devils are good this year, and they'll be getting my support.
Yeah, of course, Lindy Ruff also, um, who was our longtime coach. We kind of had to fire him a bit last year because we didn't play very well. So he's out of New Jersey. He's now at the Buffalo Sabres. But we brought in Sheldon Keefe, who I love. I love everything I've seen him doing so far in practices. Like you said, I don't know what I would say about the preseason right now, but I'm just excited, man. I'm excited for hockey to be back, and it's going to be a good year. Lastly, before we wrap this up, let's talk about, I guess, our only other professional sports team with NJ actually in the name, which would be the New Jersey Gotham of the NWSL. They did win the chip in 2023, and that's pretty much the extent of what I know about them. I know Kevin Durant and Eli Manning actually own part of the team. They're like minority partners in the team, which is pretty cool. And they play in the New York Red Bull Arena, which is actually in New Jersey. So fun stuff. Always love that. But yeah, I don't know if you really have any comments on that. Um,
Um, so, to my extent of the knowledge of New Jersey Gotham FC is that they're through 22 games played this year. This season, they are 13 wins, 4 losses, and 5 draws. They're third in the standings of the NWSL um, group of teams. So, and it seems like they're a decent team, and I bet they do get a good amount of money if it's being owned by Eli Manning and Kevin Durant. So, yeah, see how they play out. They're only like 3 games behind the number one seed Orlando Prime, and 2 games behind the number one team Washington Spirit. So they're still in contention to get to that one seed. I'm not sure how long the season lasts for, but seems like they're a solid team.
yeah, and I guess finally, final comments. We've mentioned New York Red Bulls playing New Jersey, Jets Giants playing New Jersey. We lost the Nets. That was our only other real New Jersey team. And then apparently the 76ers are moving to Camden
That's what
at
I
some
said.
point.
Yeah. Rumors.
What?
Those are rumors. Like the owner is thinking of that. That would
Yeah.
be awful. The
And they would
Philadelphia
say
sports which is great.
And they
It's
would
like they
say,
have.
but they would say Philly. They would still be the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah,
They're
but
just
why would they do? They have the Sixers Stadium, the Eagles, and the Flyers all in the same complex. It's like the perfect.
yeah, I don't
It's
know,
kind of
but I guess
vibe.
the question is, should these teams be New Jersey teams?
No, I think the more I think maybe the Red Bulls, but the more like popularity you get as a Jets Giants, you cannot be the New Jersey Jets Giants. As a Jets fan, I think that New York Jets is perfectly how it should be. And then we play in East Rutherford, and I think it's because the MetLife Stadium is like the perfect place to play. It's a big stadium, all the fans show up. But if it was New Jersey Jets, I don't think it would add to. It wouldn't. It would kind of. It would just ruin the team name. I don't know why. I just feel like New York Jets, New York Giants is better for like New York. I mean, they need a real football team. I don't consider Buffalo like a New York sports team. I consider them like kind of like an outsider. So like New York needs their own football team, so they got to stay in New York, not New Jersey.
And would you be a fan of the Nets if they were still New Jersey, at being like one of our only New Jersey teams?
I'm a big Knicks fan, so I would not. But it would be cool to be like to have like a true New Jersey basketball team. The Brooklyn Nets, like it's like they're never gonna be like on the Knicks level of fan base in New York. So I think that New Jersey they'd get more support. Everyone in New Jersey would be a fan of them at least, because I think New York side is all Knicks. I don't. The Nets are not as popular as them. So
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dylan. That's going to pretty much be it for episode 60 and the New Jersey episode of the Sports Coach Podcast. Had a lot of fun talking about both of our teams. And thank you, everyone, so much for listening. Like and subscribe here on YouTube, audio only on Spotify, and exclusive clips and everything else over on the Instagram. Thank you again, Dylan, so much for joining me. We'll see how Rutgers does this year. We'll see how Princeton does, and we'll definitely keep you updated throughout the rest of the season. So thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you next week.
thanks for having